I'd like to call to order the meeting, I'd like to call to order the Livingston Parish Council meeting for October 28th, 2021. Mr. Mack, would you give us the invocation?
Yes, sir. Be happy to. Let us bow our heads. Dear God in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Livingston Parish. Father, may you please give us the knowledge and wisdom and courage to do what is just for the people. Father, we ask that you be with those who have lost loved ones recently due to COVID and other reasons within our parish, Father. May you just put your hand on them, Father. We ask that you be with the sick and the needy, that you put your healing hand on them, Father, if it be your will, Father. We ask that your will be done in our lives. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Mr. Ard, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance,
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. King. Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. McMorris.
Here.
Mr. Delatt.
Here.
Okay, at this point in time, we'd like to, we're zooming, so it's not as big impact. Please mute or turn off your cell phones. And so far as public input, there'll be items that'll be available for public input. We'll identify, if you're zooming at a computer, there's a chat bar on the side that you can let the ladies know that you would like to chat. If you're on cell or dial up, it's a little bit different. You're just gonna have to speak up and have to try to recognize you through sound. 7 presentations. We don't have any presentations tonight. 8 would be the introduction of ordinance. Miss Sandy, would you read that ordinance by title and set the hearing date for November 18th?
Yes, sir. This is going to be proposed ordinance 21-27. This is an ordinance setting forth the 2020 census counts in each parish council election district and determining whether redistricting is required. And as you said, the public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on November 18th.
Hey, Mr. Floyd, I know you're here. I see you on the screen. Look, on the introduction, we just introduce it and we'll be talking. We'll debate and then vote on the 18th. So we'll look forward to hearing from you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Item 9, adoption of the minutes from October 14th, 2021. We're gonna defer that to the meeting on the 4th of November. 10, Parish President's report. There's an item, executive session. We really can't go into executive session Zooming without logging out, creating another Zoom and log back in. So here's the deal, guys. If everybody is comfortable, you've all been sent the resolution. If everybody's comfortable with the resolution, you've got the memorandum of understanding that was sent to you in your packet. If everybody's comfortable, then we're gonna just, without going into executive session, we're gonna adopt the resolution. If somebody's not comfortable, then we'll defer this thing because there's really, if there's questions related to strategy or something like that, we really can't discuss it publicly. So, y'all debate it. Y'all talk right now. Does somebody, Sandy, we need to read the resolution by title first, or how do we want to go about doing this?
We don't normally read resolutions, but if you want me to, I can read the first
everybody's
paragraph.
got it. I want everybody to know what we're talking about.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we introduce the resolution without going into.
We're going to adopt it, Randy. We don't have to introduce it. We're going to adopt this thing tonight. So if you want to make that motion, adopt it. Do we have a second? A second by Mr. Garlinghouse. Is there any objection among the council members? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that resolution carries. Mr. Honeycutt, I appreciate you being on, but because of the logistics of some of this stuff, we just approved your resolution so that y'all can move forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna get it to you, Blaine, as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Good to see
Okay,
you.
item B, off-system bridge program, adopt annual certification of compliance with state of Louisiana off-system bridge replacement. Y'all all got that in your packet? And it's got a list of the bridges that are under that certification. Can I get a motion on that?
I'll make that motion, Mr.
A
Chairman.
motion by Mr. Delat. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by
I'll
Mr.
second.
Girlinghouse again. Is there any objection among the council members? There being no objection, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll move on. Item 11, Florida Parishes Human Services Authority appointment. We've got two things we've got to accept, and I think we can do these together, Sandy. One is to accept the resignation of Ms. Cheryl Smith and the appointment of Charlene Lilly, which is the recommendation of the LPHSAA in a resident council District 7. Does the councilman council District 7 want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Got a motion by Mr.
Second.
Girlinghouse. We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second, Mr. Delat. Is there any objection among the council members? There being no objection, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We've carried those two. Item 12, Miss Brandy, are you on? Miss James. Miss James, you need to unmute. We're going to ask for a Hurricane Ida debris pickup update. Well, I see her on the screen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. I'm
Wanna go
calling
ahead and
in
give
on
us-
my phone, but I unmute on the computer.
Okay, you want to go ahead and give us an update, and then the council can ask you
Yes.
any questions after you go through that information for us, please?
Yes, sir, I can definitely do that. Okay, so I just got an update this afternoon. We have so far picked up 930,000 cubic yards of debris, and we now have 40 double trucks out and about in throughout the whole parish. I was told that we are concentrating the majority of the trucks, or more than the other areas in District 8 and District 9, because they were the hardest hit. That's all along the eastern and southeastern part of the parish. East. Anyway, I did get an update on waterway debris. FEMA has just recently elected not to cover our waterway debris. So now we're having to turn it all over to NRCS, and we hope to have a packet submitted to NRCS for them to review and approve by the end of next week. The good news is that they are going to allow us to cover the areas that we had previously cleaned in the last 2 or 3 years, and we will not have to get new Corps of Engineer permits for those particular areas that we've already done. We will have to get permits for the new areas. And as most of you may know, in order to get funding from NRCS, which is through USDA, it has to be a congressional vote to have that money allocated to NRCS to do these sort of things. Other than that, I was told that on November 19th, we're going to cease operations for a little bit, and we will start back up on December 6th, and that will be our last pass. We're gonna create some things, put some policies in place, and put some stuff out to the public to let them know when, where, what, kind of like what's going on, as soon as we get that stuff finalized. And that's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Brandy, after 8
Yes, sir.
weeks, after 8 weeks, District 8 probably has half of the stuff picked up. And after a good start, it seems like it's slowing down a little bit. How do we feel like in 2 more weeks or 3 more weeks we're going to be finished? If after 8 weeks we don't even have half picked up?
We don't think we're going to be finished at that time. We're going to pick up as much as we can between now and then, because of the holidays that's coming up, and most of these people don't live here. So we're going to, like I said, we're going to stop on November 19th, but we're only going to be stopped through the holidays, and then we're going to pick back up on December 6th. And then we're going to go for another run. I don't know how long that's going to be. We're going to assess everything. And, they may have people call in, they might start making lists, stuff like that. They're working all that out and finalizing that now.
Okay.
So we're going to, at some point, we're going to have to start making a list for particular spots.
I don't have no one to contact with the exception of you, Brandy. So I'm gonna tell you some of the problems, some of the things that happens that I deal with on a daily basis. Okay. Some pickups haven't been picked up once yet, much less twice. Okay. And the reason some of those haven't been picked up is because the trees are so large and equipment available to pick up cannot pick it up. That's what the guy on the truck is telling us. Okay. Now, he's not a supervisor. He's just operating a truck. He says he can't pick it up. It's too heavy for his truck. It's boom. Okay. Right. The other problems we have is that steel spectrum or cable or phone wire or something tangled up and steel and all kind of piles that are made of, across the road. When they clear the roads, they just cleared it all to the ditch. Okay. Those stuff, as long as those wire and cables in there, it can't get picked up either. And if it's it happens to be in front of a person's yard, it still can't get picked up. So those are the things that needs to be told back to the contractor to provide a plan on how that's going to happen instead of just passing in front of it. And everybody says, why do you don't stop and pick it up? They keep passing in front. The other point is you hit on the head. I've got some information sent to me by someone that showed what the other parishes are doing. They have a schedule of each road on that schedule, when it's going to be picked up the first time, when it's picked up the second time, it's color coded. They have phone numbers, numerous numbers for people to contact and ask questions instead of calling the councilman. And the third and last thing that I'm going to deal with is I go to a home association meeting Saturday, and all they want to talk about is how we're going to clean the canals and the drainage in Springfield. And so those are things that you just answered while ago, but it's not clear to me what I tell the people other than that FEMA's not going to pay for it and we don't have a plan at this time. Is that what you want me to say?
They're working on the plan. I know that they put everything together and they're gathering more information. And like I said, they plan on sending that packet to NRCS by the end of next week. It's not going to be all of them, but it's going to be the major waterways where we have the biggest issues right now. Doesn't mean we're not going to do those other spots as well. We just want to get that larger chunk of debris pulled out immediately while we're working on the rest.
Okay, Brandy, they can't get to the drainage will not be able to get to the larger waterways without cleaning some of the creeks and canals and lateral ditches that are there. And so if I'm understanding correctly, though we don't have a plan for that yet, and we don't know who's going to be responsible. Ultimately, the parish is responsible, but we don't know what that plan is going to be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, because NRCS has to direct us on what that plan is. We cannot pick up anything that they do not specifically approve us to pick up. There has been times in the past where we've seen debris in one spot and just a little further down, there's some more debris, but they'll let us pick up one pile, but not the other. So they have to put the plan together for us and tell us what we can and can't pick up. Okay. We're just submitting everything to them to say what we think we should be able to pick up.
Ms. White sent me an email today from some residents wanting to know the plan on one particular lateral ditch, which is a major lateral ditch that goes from Springfield all the way to the lake, okay? And that doesn't seem like it's going to be covered in that plan. And I know she also forwarded to President Ricks. So does that mean the parish, if RCS doesn't do it, does that mean the parish is going to do it?
I'll have to ask. I'm just going based on what was told to me. I'm not the one handling debris. I hate to say that, but I'm not. So I'm just going based on the information I was given before the meeting.
Who is handling debris right now?
Mark Harrell.
Mark is still there? Okay, because I have called the last 3 times and he hasn't responded. I didn't know if he was still there.
Brandy, can I interject something for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Brandy, you listened to the end of the Finance Committee meeting when we talked about that the Recovery Act money coming down from the what we're talking about is that it looks like if that change that is proposed occurs, that government services, up to 10 million can be redirected for government services. And government services are a pretty broad ranging thing. That's why I was concerned that we're spending money on certain projects that might be allocated already under the old deal. When in essence, a government service, if NRCS doesn't fund a particular area, that we could then have money within the budget to address those particular items. Because let's face it, we all have looked at the budget. We know that there's no money to go out and clean lateral ditches. You know, even if NRCS doesn't fund it, we know we can't get it done. We can pay the MAC, but we can't do the deal. So with this windfall, we might have the ability to go do some of that stuff. That's all. That's why I was asking what that money was being allocated for. And
Okay.
if those,
I got a question.
if those House resolutions were approved, then up to $10 million of our 26 could be reallocated to government services, and maybe we could do something like that. That was the whole thought process earlier.
Yes, sir. And that would be great.
Miss Brandy, can someone furnish us with a number that we can give to people that would answer these questions that we asked, and so we wouldn't have to come every meeting and ask for an update?
Yes, sir. I have been asking for that phone number, and I actually met with our phone guy today. He runs the whole phone system for the parish. I asked him if they come up and say that they don't have a location in order to do a phone call spot out of. I've offered up my EOC, and we just put a number in there for them to just send me a couple of bodies to start answering these calls. As soon as I get that done, I'm going to put it out.
Hey,
Yes, sir. And
can I ask a question?
Sir?
I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead and finish your answer, Randy. I'm sorry. I thought you was finished. My computer cut off.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just saying I've offered my EOC as a location for them to set up a phone bank and provide a phone number to the general public to start calling those things in. But right now they are calling our office daily. It's all day long. We're taking calls, and we're not turning people away. We let them know that we're not handling it, but that we're going to take their stuff and we're going to email it to Mark and to the debris monitor. So we are sending it, but I would rather, like Mr. Delac said, set up a phone call center for people to call directly and have their stuff recorded and put on the list.
Okay,
Jennifer.
I have a question.
Okay.
Who set up the contract with this company to do this debris cleaning?
So we have to go through proper procurement by FEMA standards. And so, we have to send out an RFP, which is request for proposal. So many people send in, and then we've got to put together a team of people to grade those proposals from not the decision makers don't do it. We just have other people from other departments come in and do the grading. And it has to be based on their grading scale and also their fee schedule and stuff like that. So that's how they want it. And we brought it before the council for y'all to approve based on that grading.
That's great. So this is what I like to see from that company. I need a list of roads in my District 6, what's going to be done in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Because I'm just like Randy and the other area with Shane's area. There's still roads people's got to drive through. The Ben Jones Road, the people still can't get down their roads right now because of debris hanging off the edge of the roads. All they did was clear the pathway. So if we hired this company, I think we need some kind of information from them. Where are we headed next? Are we going to Randy's area? We're going to Bubba's area? Give us some answers so we can give our people the answers we need for them, please.
Okay. Yes, I will pass that along.
Brandy, one more, and I know it seems like I'm beating up on you, but it's one more thing I want to discuss. I want to explain how things is working every day. Okay, today on River Highlands, they haven't got picked up one time. And those homes are $1 million homes down there, some of them. They were able to call your number today, and this evening, right before this meeting started, I got a phone call and said from the Homeowner Association that they get picked up today, okay, for the first time. There's so many roads in Killians, it's too numerous to talk, haven't been picked up the first time. And I have almost every road, someone on it hasn't been picked up the first time. So those things is going to have, instead of us waiting on just a phone number, someone's going to have to be proactive, take the bull by the horns and show some leadership ability. and help these people out so they can get in and out their roads. And that's the last thing I'm gonna say. And thank you for showing up and giving us a response.
Hey, Brandy, according to the contract, if they can't pick up the stuff based on its size, is there some provision for them to go back and cut it and get it smaller? You know, on the RFQ as it was set forth?
Yeah, we've had to have people cut this up themselves. We've put out that they're not supposed to mix the piles. We've told them what size things need to be, like if they're putting out like trailers and stuff like that. We have had people call and say, I'm putting a stump out there. It's this size. Is that too big? Do we need to cut it more? We've done that. Now I know that Mark has set up a crew that goes out and trims limbs that are about to fall so that we don't have to go back later. They go ahead and cut them and set them out to the road. So I will pass on to him that we have this issue, and maybe he can get that crew to go out and cut that stuff up themselves. I will definitely check into that.
Brandon, they told me on a truck there was another crew was going to come and do that. That's what the truck driver said. Oh. In addition to that, okay. That's how the state operates it that way. They pick up what they can, then they come back in a heavy duty truck and more saws and cut it. Some of these trees, the house a resident does not have a saw big enough to cut. Some of these trees are 3 foot, 4 foot diameter, and some of these trees fell on private property, but they were in the road right away. So the parish needs to pick these up or have the contractor pick them up. I don't see how that's going to be the residents. Maybe their trash might be their stuff, but as a tree falling onto their property and too big to cut up themselves, I don't see how it's their responsibility. It's blocking the ditch. It's an our right of way. The tree came from our right of way, and there's plenty of that.
Right. No, I'm talking about the ones that, like they called and said, we have people out here cutting it up and we're asking. We went ahead and told them what size it needed to be. That's why I'm saying I'm probably going to, I am going to mention to Mark about trying to get that crew to come out and cut those sort of things up.
Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Yes. Have any questions for Ms. James?
I do.
Ms. Harris.
A fella contacted me this morning, and he has a lot. It's at the corner of Plantation Park and Highway 16. And it didn't have a tree on it, but someone has gone and dumped a lot of debris on that lot. He has no way of doing anything to move it. Only thing he can do is maybe get somebody with a dozer to go push it in the road ditch and see if the state will pick it up. Is there any way we can help him with that?
Yeah, can you get me his information offline? I will talk to him and get Mark on the phone too, and we'll talk to him and see what we can do. That might also have to be, and aside from us doing what we're going to do, he might need to make a report on that, because that could be considered illegal dumping, even though it's, not hazardous materials or anything, but people are dumping stuff on his property. So we'll check into every avenue of how to help him out with that.
Okay, thank you.
I got just one quick question, and just to clarify, I see that Mr. Gray on the chat is asking, is there a number yet for people to call if they feel their house has been missed? That's his specifically. My understanding is you don't quite have that set up yet, but I wanted you to clarify for
me. Yes, sir. I'll address that again. So there isn't a number yet, a hotline for the homeowners to call the debris companies directly. We are setting it up, but people have been all day long, every day that we're there, and even all over the weekends, we're getting voicemails. People are calling my office, and we are not ignoring them. So
okay.
If it calls my office.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought you said. I didn't realize, but you probably had already said that before. After Mr. Gray had asked the question, I was just making sure it was covered. So thank you.
Okay.
All the councilmen done with their questions? Ms. James, thank you very much for taking your time and coming and answering these things and providing as much information as possible.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Let's move on to item 13, adopt a resolution to authorize a variance of section 125-12 requirements for a minor subdivision to waive the 40-foot servitude requirement and allow a 25-foot servitude as there are existing structures within the 40-foot servitude mandate for David and Beth Wolf located in Council District 9. This is Mr. Mack.
I appreciate that. First of all, I'd like to say that this is family property being subdivided. They're subdividing this property to give to their children. They're asking for a waiver on the width of the servitude. It's required to be 40. They're asking for a 25. The reason they're asking for the 25 is the servitude is going to follow an existing road that goes back to the property. And between the property line, and the edge of the servitude, there's some existing structures and there's not enough room to get through that way. And so they're asking for this waiver on a 25-foot servitude. I'd like to make that motion. I wrote out there, it's going to be of no concern.
I'll second Mr. Mack's motion.
Appreciate that very much.
Hey, and before we vote, that's fine. Shane, are they aware the 25-foot servitude might not let them get a MODAD installed? Has anybody talked to the health unit to make sure that the servitude is significant enough is wide enough to let them put sewer back there? I mean, that's the only question. If we do all this and waive the servitude and then they can't get a plant in the back, I'm just, you know what I'm talking about? I just want to know.
That's a very good question. I appreciate that, Mr. Gary. What will happen there if that's the case and they're not able to maybe build a new structure due to the sewer servitude is they can go back after that and add a specific dedicated sewer servitude that takes the sewer exactly where the DHH group would like for it to go. And so that's of no concern.
Okay, all right. So we've got a motion by Mr. Delat and a motion by Mr. Mack and a second by Mr. Delat. Is there any objection among the council members? There being no objection, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 13 carries. 14, discussion and review of neighboring citizens' complaints and concerns regarding the infrastructure and the drainage of a proposed minor resub for John L. Thompson located on Henry White Road, being 10.65 acres, 6 lots being divided. Section 17, track 6X. So I forget what the R stands for, R6E in Council District 9. Mr. Mack.
Hey, thanks for the floor on that. So, gentlemen, I appreciate y'all allowing me to be able to put this on the agenda. I'd like to say that the property owner is not asking for any waivers for this division of property. The reason I put this on the agenda was because a lot of the surrounding property owners are very concerned with this development. And the reason that they're concerned with this development is because the drainage is extremely poor in the area. And the existing parish road that the development, borders up to is very narrow. So they were mainly concerned with where the sewer is going to go. You know, they had some concerns about the sewer. They had some concerns about the traffic. They had some concerns about the drainage. Now, it's to my understanding. I mean, and I certainly feel for the citizens around this property that's being developed. I'd like to give some of them the floor to maybe address their concerns, let them communicate, at this time, after I get finished. But basically, there's actually, it's about a 10 point, I forget the number, but like 10.6 acres. This being
10.65.
It's currently subdivided into 3 lots, and if you did the calculations, it's pretty close to somewhere between 3 and 4 acres each. And what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to subdivide these basically in half. The lots are going to be approximately 1.75 or 1.775 acre lots. So in my opinion, what we're talking about doing is we're talking about adding, 3 additional houses, because the current existing lots, you could, build a house today on them. So the difference maker to me is the 3 new houses. Now, what I've done is I've communicated with the engineer/surveyor that's over the development. And I explained to them that there is a concern about the drainage. And so what I was told was that, we went and we used, say, 3,000 square foot houses be placed on this property. if that was the case, not saying that that's a requirement, but just saying if that was the case, and they calculated the impervious structure, right, that was going to be placed on this property, and if you calculate that up, it's less than 2% of the property that's going to be going to have the impervious structure material. And so it's to the opinion of that specific engineering firm that this will have extreme minimal impact on the surrounding drainage. Now, to me, what the real problem is that there's no funded gravity drainage districts, and there's very, very, very minimal, maintenance being performed on the existing drainage. And so I feel like that, if we get gravity drainage district 8 up and running and get that funded, that it could, have very minimal impact and drainage would be acceptable. And I think that all parties could be happy with the development. But that's just my opinion. I'd like to open the floor, if you don't mind, Gary, and let those that are on the call, voice their concerns. And maybe I thought some of you all, this dealt with development in your area might have some inspiring, communication, maybe give a little direction on how to move forward with this.
Okay, we'd like to open the floor. Look, we're gonna try not to repeat ourselves. I mean, I know everybody might have the same point you try to make. Let's try not to repeat the person in front of us. We're gonna try to limit the comments to 3 minutes only. But who would like to go first?
I'd like to talk about it.
All right, Mr. Calderone, you want to state your name and your address, please?
Yeah, Drew Calderone, 27880 Henry White Road. I live on the south side of this development that's happening. Myself and one other individual, which Tammy Resitar, are the two main people going to be affected, but also Sherry Rester are going to be affected too. She's living adjacent in between these properties. But all the drainage, about 90% of it goes south. It comes directly through 2 culverts underneath the road onto my entire property and through Tammy Resitar's property. And they're discussing 3 properties. It's not 3 properties, it's 0. It is no development. It's a cow field. So when they discuss 3 properties as it is, that's inaccurate. I understand it's 10 and a half acres and it's already divided into 3. It's 3.5 acre tracts. I understand that. But it is not a development at all. It's a cow field. So, Mr. Mack, I appreciate his help, but that is an inaccurate statement of 3 properties, only additional 3 properties. It's not. It's 6. It was a non-developed 10.5 acre tract that was set up and is now being proposed to be developed into 6. That's a big difference. 0 to 6 versus 3 to 6 is a big difference. So not only do we have drainage issues, which it all comes through two culverts on my property and the neighbors, that, they're not going to come in with all the flooding issues and just go ahead and slap a slab on the ground and develop it. They're going to build it up 2-3 feet. So we've got more drainage and no ditches, not one ditch on that side of the road. It all drains to a corner and comes through my property and the neighbors. There is not a single ditch. And then we've got Mr. Chuck, who doesn't even own the property, who's helping develop it for Jonell Thompson, who's going to come in with his tractor and going to put ditches in with a middle buster, which is a plow. So we've got an individual who's going to go and develop a 6 property tract from 0, not from 3, from 0, with a plow. I'm just really concerned about the drainage because every time it rains, 90% of the drainage comes from that side of the road onto my property, and it floods my property. It's holding water right now from the water the other day, the rain yesterday. And then we've got a guy that's going to develop it with Jonell Thompson, 6 properties from 0, not from 3, from 0, with a middle buster as a ditch solution. I'm just really concerned about how that's okay and the parish is going to approve that type of drainage with a man and a tractor and a plow as his drainage solution. And then on top of that, we've got septic issues. All 6 of these houses are going to have poop water coming out, and they're all going to come onto my property and my neighbor's property. They're not going to go down the street because there's no drainage down the street. There's not a single ditch. It goes through my property and my neighbor's.
Okay, Mr. Calderon. Thank you.
And then, well, we got one more issue. I appreciate the time. We got a 12-foot road that services these 6 houses. A 12-foot road, that's not enough for 1 vehicle hardly, much less 2. And they're going to go ahead and develop this and approve it on a 12-foot road. I just don't see how that's sufficient. That's not enough for 2 cars to pass each other.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon.
Thank you.
Next? Anybody else like to comment? Okay, we're gonna.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir.
You want to state your name and address, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. 28008 Henry White Road.
Okay.
I'm just to the east of Mr. Calderon, and I had the same issues that he has. There's no ditches in the area, and the sewer water comes to the south side of the road. And I'm not going to repeat everything he did, but I had the same issues that he has. You there, sir?
Yes, sir. We're listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's no ditches in the area, and everything comes across the road to the south side. The ditches that have been dug by the people that live there. And I have that issue, the same issues he has. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone else?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Rester, you want to state your name and address for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Sherry Rester. I'm at 27969 Henry White Road. I am the residence that Mr. Drew spoke about earlier that sits in between the 2 tracks. I won't go into the drainage and sewer because I think Drew handled that quite accurate. My concern that I would like to voice more would be the 1-lane road that is coming in and out of that area. Currently, if you count all the residents back there, it's about 9 vehicles that frequently travel in and out, not counting companies, school buses, waste management, or anything like that. When I'm coming home from work, if I'm coming home and there's somebody coming out, I literally have to pull into Fletcher Drive, which is to the left, and sit so I can get to my own home because it's just not a 2-lane road. If, 6 tracks are fully developed and each person has 2 cars, not including children and company, at that point, we very well may have 20 plus vehicles traveling a 1-lane road and we have nowhere to go. In my yard, right up my yard. I mean, where do we go? The road is a major issue as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Shane, I have a question. Is it on the priority road list for consideration?
It was recently overlaid.
It was recently overlaid and they didn't widen it any?
Well, it's not easy to widen parish roads unless the property owners, will allow, give up some of their property, and give up and make the right of way wider. So typically what happens is they just go in there and overlay existing. It is sort of narrow. It is, but what I can say is that there's many roads in Livingston Parish, especially Council District 9, that are approximately the same width. And
12 feet. Shane, was there no servitude? I'm just asking, was there no servitude on that other side of the road to dig a ditch when they were doing that? I mean, I'm just asking the question. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
A road ditch can be dug. A road ditch can be dug on that side, but like he said, the property is on the north side of the road. Mr. Drew's property is on the south. It's unfortunate, but Mr. Drew's property is lower, and the natural drain for this property that's being developed. It funnels underneath the road, a couple of culverts, and drains on bound through the backside of his property on down into Turkey Creek. Like I say, the drainage is poor in that area, but what I'd like to say is that, this Livingston Parish Council is doing everything within its power to write some current ordinances that will establish some drainage impact fees for Gravity Drainage District 8, which this resides within Gravity Drainage District 8. And this is an opportunity to where if this was implemented, drainage impact fees could be used to improve the drainage in the area, dig out some of these lateral ditches, with property owner approval that hadn't been dug out in over 30 years so that the drainage wouldn't be such an issue, so that you could have a road ditch and drain this such that it could, work out. Let me say that, it's true. I mean, the road is narrow, right? I can tell you that the road that I live on is also very, very narrow, and you do have to pull over sometimes to let others pass by. But, we make do, right? It's just unfortunate, that the road is that width. I wish, to be honest with you, when the road was originally overlaid, 15, 20 years ago, I wish that the parish would have took their time and went in and established right of way that was wide enough so that all parties could pass without having to pull over, and then overlaid it, and we wouldn't be going through this trouble that we are going through today. I'm not quite sure how we can do that, but what I can tell you is I do think that some of that property does have a road ditch, and it drains those two culverts. We can certainly dig a road ditch within the road right away, so that it drains to those couple of culverts there. The information that it's not been communicated to me, the intent to by the property owner or by the developer that the developer and the property owner is going to go in there and dig ditches and this type of stuff. I'm not quite sure, what that's about. What has been communicated to me is that the developer is going to dig a swell ditch on the north side of that those 4 lots to retain some of that water in an effort that it doesn't dump as much water that's being, the stormwater runoff that's being dumped down through that culvert today. They're planning to dig a swell ditch on that north side to try to retain some of that water so that it actually enhances and improves the drainage in that area. It's also been verbally communicated to me, not in writing, that the sewer for those lots to the west side of that is going to drain back to that swell ditch. So, I could be wrong about that. Plans change. It's the DHH approves where that sewer is going to drain to. But that's what's been communicated to me. So.
Shane, you got another constituent, I think, that wants to speak. Mr.
Okay,
Kennedy,
good. Go ahead.
You got your hand up. You're on your iPhone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know.
State your name and
My
address.
My name is Tammy Resitar. I live adjacent to the Drew Calderon. I am on the south side of him, but everything drains onto my property.
Give us the number of your residence. I'm sorry.
27900 Henry White Road.
Okay, thank you.
I raise cattle for sale on this property, and I prefer not to have additional sewage from 6 additional potential homes draining onto my property for the health of my cattle and for those people that will be eating the cattle because I have beef cattle that I have on my property. Right now we have, like you said, an issue with the drainage, but it all drains on my property. So if you could drain it on the other side of the property, that would be maybe a different issue. But at this point, it appears to be that it's going to drain on my property. Now, I would have to see some kind of set in stone sewerage and drainage plan before I would even approve anything like this.
I'd like to say something to that.
Hey, Shane.
Okay, to subdivide this property under the ordinance that's currently existing today, which is the minor subdivision ordinance, you can legally subdivide this property, and you don't have to submit to, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you don't have to submit the sewer plan until after you begin to build. So
No.
it's not possible for me to go in and request and require the sewer plan before it's approved. Is that an accurate statement?
Shane, this is the ordinance. This is the ordinance at all property. Like if you want to give your kid an acre or whatever, this is the ordinance that's done. So it's the least restrictive ordinance we have with respect to property subdivision, so that we don't, and so those people are subdividing that property under the minor resub deal, which there's no drainage impact study done and no sewer deal. We rely upon the DHH to handle the sewer requirements for properties that where they discharge based on the plants that they put in that technically are supposed to work and not dump raw sewage into the roadside ditches. I mean, I don't know if that answers the question that you're looking for.
It did. I appreciate that. I mean, it's not actually possible for me at this time to go and request that before this development can be approved, or I mean, it would be considered, and that's to my understanding. What I can also say is that I wanted to request a gravity drainage study be performed before the development was approved, but it was written to me by the developer that after reviewing the houses being built on the property and the impervious structures that's going to be placed on the property, that it was only going to take up 2% of the property, and that it didn't meet the requirement per the ordinance. I have it documented to require a gravity drainage study on the property.
Okay.
Mr. Mack, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The person, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm Sherry Rester again. The person that you're saying, the developer that said it was only going to be a 2% impact, who is that? Somebody that Mr. Chuck Spadell and Janelle Thompson has used, or is that somebody the parish has talked to in regards to this?
Good question. That is Macklin Taylor and Associates. They are the surveying company, the engineering company that's this, I guess you could say, surveying and submitting the preliminary plat.
Were they hired from? They're being hired from Thompson.
Right. Yes.
So it's coming from her people. Okay.
Well, look, I can help you. The math is, if it's 10.65 acres, it's 463,914 square feet. If you have 5,000 square feet of impervious material on 6 lots, you're looking at 30,000 square feet, which, if you do the math, is 6%. Which it requires if there's an engineer in here, I know that's already. I think the way the ordinance set up is a 10% change, Eddie, is what it requires a drainage impact study. In a normal commercial type development or whatever, I think it's a 10% deal. So, if they built 5,000 square foot houses, then you have a 6%. To get over 10%, you would have to.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Gary?
I can, Eddie.
Yeah, if it's less than 10% impervious, then it's not required.
Yeah, so you could actually go and tell me if I'm wrong, but you could go to 10% of that would be. So you could go. You could go like 7,500 impervious square feet per lot and still wouldn't be required to have a drainage impact study on the way the other ordinance is written. So it's a pretty big structure you got to build to get over the 10% on the 6 lots, to combine. Everybody would have to go over, approach 8,000 square feet of impervious material to require a drainage impact study at the way the current ordinance is written on a subdivision with or without improvements, as I understand it. So, it's not, I know the engineer just does the calculations, but that's just the basic calculations on 10.65 acres with respect to 10% of impervious material.
So basically what that says to me is the drainage is poor in the area. I went out there and looked at it. It does drain exactly the way that these folks are saying. It's very, very poor, but the development of itself is going to have a very, 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 very low on the existing drainage, impact. It's going to have a very low impact on the existing drainage. That's basically what that says.
Yeah. So we've had water running over the road for a week, and it's not going to affect nothing.
It's going to have very, very, very. I'm not going to say that it ain't poor drainage, but what I'm going to say is that this development has very, very, very minimal impact. It's not going to make it much worse than it is. What needs to happen is we need to get Gravity Drainage District 8 funded. We need to get some established, dedicated drainage servitudes. We need to do a gravity drainage study in that whole entire area. We need to calculate stormwater runoff, right? And we need to go in there. We need to increase the capacity. We need to clean all that out so where that area drains well, and so that drainage is not an issue. It's to my understanding, this development is going to have very, very, very minimal impact on the surrounding drainage.
Okay, so you're saying basically that there's nothing that we can do to stop this from happening, and it is what it is. That's basically what I'm understanding from this meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this should, to be honest, Mr. Mack asked that the planning department not sign this resub to bring it before the council to give you all an opportunity to express your opinion. But ultimately, there's no provision or there's no request for a waiver, and there's no requirement on a minor resub for traffic drainage studies on this thing because it's the basic resub ordinance within the parish. So consequently, yes, ma'am, if we didn't allow it to happen, then we would be sued by the parties trying to do the resub because there's no reason, according to the ordinance, not to allow them to do it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Delat.
I would like to ask Mr. Mack a question. Shane, I know you done been through this and you're trying to help everyone. I understand that. Do you think it's possible that you can set up a meeting between the developer and the homeowners and iron some of this out?
I'm willing to set up a meeting with the planning director and the developer and the surrounding neighbors. But yeah, I think that is a good idea. And I'd actually talked to I'd talk to Drew about that.
Shane, let me ask you a question. It sounded like if you put a culvert across the road to get it on the north side, would the water go that way and it just wouldn't be on those people's property?
No, it's not. The contours of that property where this existing property is on the north, it all drains right there by, I guess that would be the southeast side right there at the corner of Sherry Jones' property and goes across Drew's property. And there's just going to be no way to change it. It's too much higher than the rest of the property today. Today, if you go and shoot the elevations of those properties, I mean, it's coming that way. And there's not a whole lot you can do other than what the current developer is trying to do. And that's retain some of it in a swell ditch on the backside that he's not even required to do. He's going above and beyond to do that, to try to retain some of that drainage. It's not even required to do that.
With all this being said, and we know that drainage and flooding is an issue in the area, we're still going to go ahead and approve this when it's already three lots. That's my question. We already know everyone's stating that it's an issue, but go ahead and sign it and say, absolutely, go ahead and build 6 instead of 3.
Mr. Calderon, I understand your frustration. Look, we have no option. I mean, I hate to say this. There is no provision in the ordinance for us to deny on a minor resub if you don't ask for a waiver. There is absolutely no. We vote no. The council's going to get sued. Our attorney's going to tell us approve that deal because you're going to lose in court, and it's going to get approved anyway. I mean, no disrespect, but that's just the way the ordinance is written. And look, there's been plenty of times that we wanted to say, for the health, safety, and welfare of the community, we don't want to approve it. But guess what? The parish attorney says that's not sufficient, and you don't have cause. And so our kind of hands are tied up. Mr. Mack and I had the discussion about this item being on the agenda, and because
we appreciate it.
I mean, look, I know your frustration. You came and made valid points about why this thing should not be approved, and they're all valid. but there's nothing in the law that would allow us to not approve it, is what I'm telling you. So, I mean, look, we're all going to vote the way that the law tells us to vote, and we're probably none of us are happy about it, but it's just, it is what it is. I know you don't want to hear that, but I mean, those are the facts.
I appreciate you letting us talk about it.
All right. Thank y'all. Look, if there's nobody else, I hate to go this way. Mr. Mack, you want to make a motion? Somebody want to make a second so we can move past this item?
Well, the truth is, I'd like to ask the question. I mean, to me, there's no action required by the council. I mean, this goes straight to the planning director for signature. I mean, I don't think a motion is required. I really just put this on the agenda. I wanted to allow, I wanted the people that live in my area that I care about, that I've been knowing all my life, to have the opportunity to communicate their concerns, so that we could discuss it and move forward. I don't really think that a motion needs to be made. There's no requirement. And
I understand. You asked the planning director not to sign this thing already. So are you going to call him back and ask him to sign it? I mean, I just want to I don't want him to be confused about what's going on.
I'm going to communicate with him. Yes, on Monday morning.
Okay. Item 15, adopt a resolution to correct and establish that Denham Road should be listed on all parish records as Denham Drive, being a parish maintained road located in Council District 4. Mr. John Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. I requested that this be on the agenda. There's a road in Denham Springs that goes, or north of Denham, it goes from Old River Road to Highway 16. And I've always known that road to be Denham Drive. As I campaigned, everyone there knew it as well as Denham Drive. Well, what happened was, I think a road sign got taken down and was going to be put up, and they looked up there and saw it said Denham Road on the sign. So the neighbors called me and just got to talking and said, that's really not true. So they called DPW. I believe they looked at it on the Grant Bankston book that I found about from a previous meeting, and they said that the Grant Bankston book called it Denham Road. So the problem there is that all the residents on their driver's license as an address says Denham Drive, and on one of the gentlemen that lived there said he pulled up his title when he bought the property and it's listed as Denham Drive. And of course, when people have insurance on their homes or anything to do with an address, they've all got Denham Drive. And so with FedEx and UPS and just deliveries, it could be a problem. So I think the resolution to fix this, I'd like to make one just to officially change the name from Denham Road to Denham Drive.
I can second that, Mr. Chairman, but I got a question.
Go ahead, Randy. I mean, I had a comment.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe you address my comment here.
Okay. Basically, is it okay with 911? That's all that I needed to know.
Well, I thought about that, Randy. I don't know the facts. I didn't call 911, but I mean, they would need to be informed of that, but I think ultimately that decision would be ours.
I do. 911, I think, will be okay with whatever we decide to name it. And Mr. Wascom, so it's your opinion, being that you're in District 4, that it's better serving the community to reestablish this road as Denham Drive instead of Denham Road, correct?
That is correct. I believe there's a gentleman here tonight, Mr. Barry, who might have more information than what I'm giving you. So if you have a question, I'm sure.
I don't. I just want to make sure that that the majority of the constituents, and I get what you're saying, because I have a road like that in my area. So I will second that motion if you put that in form of a motion for the resolution.
I have a question. I just want to know. We have a policy within the council on how to change a road name, and Grant Bankston, being the official road list of the parish, names it Denham Road. I'm not saying it's not, well, everybody knows it's Denham Drive, but we have a policy, a way to change it. It requires 75% signature. Obviously, Mr. Wascom thinks 100% of the people are in favor, so getting that signature list together would be pretty easy. Do we want to start changing the names without following the procedure? That's my question.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I researched this, and there's been several times we've had to change little bitty nitpicky things on the Grant Bankston road list because it was not identified correctly. This is just another one of those situations. I checked the Assessor's Geo portal. We have a parish road atlas on Google Maps. I checked that. And there was one other thing. There's 4 different things that I checked, and everything is Denham Drive.
Okay.
So I think he's just wrong on the Grant Bankston list.
Mr.
Sounds like a
Chairman,
winner to me. So we got a motion by Mr. Wascom and a second by Mr. Girlinghouse.
one more question. One more.
Go ahead, Randy.
I agree with everyone else about what it should be. I just think this was one of those times when the guy made the sign, put the wrong sign up. I don't think we're trying to change the name. I think it's put the correct sign up is what we're looking for. But I'll second John's motion and I'm ready for a vote.
Okay, all in favor say aye to change the name.
Aye.
The list. There was no objection. Okay, this item
Real
carried.
quick, Mr. Talbot, if you would ask Mr. Berry if there's anything that I didn't cover or that he was here about, if you don't mind.
Mr. Berry, I think Mr. Berry has left. I don't see Mr.
He's
Berry
there.
anymore.
There he is.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Berry Innerarity. Mr. Innerarity, you want to state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Barry Innerarity, 7805 Denham Drive, Denham Springs. I appreciate letting me say just a few words. I appreciate y'all taking the time to discuss this because I talked to Miss Sandy and Mr. Wascom about this issue because even though this might have been done years ago by this Grant gentleman, we've had individuals that lived here since the road was developed back in the late 60s, early 70s. And one of my neighbors has lived here for 35 years. So everybody knows it by Denham Drive. So we have the government that knows us as Denham Drive, FEMA knows us as Denham Drive, our taxes, our insurances, Google search, you go to Google search or any maps, it's going to come up with Denham Drive. Everything comes up with Denham Drive. And so if it changes the Denham Road, then your fire department, police department, EMS is all going to have issues with it because when you go to any kind of search engine, it always comes up with Denham Drive. So, so I appreciate that and being able to voice our concerns with it.
All right. Well, it passed unanimously to change on Grant Bankston from Denham Road to Denham Drive. Item 16, accept Tyler Lane in the parish maintenance system under type D roads located in council district. Let's see, that would be 9, Mr. Mack.
Appreciate it. Real quick, it's a private road. I'd like to get accepted in as a Class D parish road, but I don't have all the signatures that are required, so I'd like to defer that to a future date, not even the next meeting, until I can get all these signatures.
So wait, Sandy, to defer it, do we have to put a date, or can we just defer it indefinitely, or is that tabling?
Just tabling.
It's tabled, but I mean, he can just bring it up again when he can.
Right.
Okay, so we're not going to put a date on. We're just going to move on and say, Shane, when you get it straight, you'll bring it back to us?
Correct.
Okay, item 17, adopt a resolution to add the following roads for consideration to the priority road capital outlay list. A, Dick Hodges and Ola Road located in Council District 9, and Fern Street and Railroad Street located in Council District 4. Shane, we had something on Ola Street a while back. What were we doing? Were we bringing it into the parish maintenance system to begin with, or?
It was in the parish maintenance system before we all took office in 2016.
I just remember that name from something. We had something that was with respect.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we took any action or not, to be quite honest with you. It's been a parish road. What I'd like to do is these are gravel roads, and I'd like to put them on a list to be considered to be overlaid, if that'd be possible.
Yeah, I mean, you just put them on the priority road list and look.
Right.
They're hard to get overlaid because of ride. I mean, you grade them and the ride comes out good, so it's a struggle, but just put them on there and see how they score. John, your 2 roads, Fern Street and Railroad Street. You got to unmute, John.
Thank you, Mr. Talbert. That is correct. Fern Street and Railroad Street. The mayor of Denham Springs called me about those, and I'd like to get those added as well.
Okay, so we're going to have one of y'all make, Shane, you want to make the motion on all four?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion.
Okay, Shane's going to make it. John, you're going to second. Any objection among council members? Everybody's good. No, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're going to add those 4 streets to the priority capital outlay list for consideration. 18, update on zoning. Mr. Mack, you had Mr. Idell come talk to us real quick about that?
I did. Go ahead and give Mr. Idell forward. Thank you, Gary.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Eddie,
Yes,
can
sir.
I tell you it's 7:08 and this meeting shouldn't have lasted an hour? So go ahead, do what you got to do.
I'm going to proceed expeditiously. First thing, I apologize for taking a while to get back to y'all with everything going on. It's just been a little hectic. But I do have some good news. As you guys are all aware, you approved the first draft of the ordinance a few months ago. Since then, we have made some good progress. The first thing that we made happen was we got with Mr. Jeff Taylor and the group that manages his GIS system for the parish, and we worked with those guys to come up with some templates to make certain that the finished product that you guys end up approving would seamlessly be able to be added to the parish GIS system. So that took a little longer than we wanted it to. It wasn't because of Jeff Taylor or the other group. It's just with the COVID and all this other crazy hurricanes, it just took a little while for us to coordinate. But we've got all that from those guys. We've got a good template, and we have actually started with some of the easier things first, obviously. We're comparing and evaluating the city of Denham Springs zoning, town of Walker, and all the other municipalities that have zoning in the parish. And we're trying to make certain that what we're doing as closely as possible mimics that, so that we don't have any conflicting uses adjacent to the city of Denham Springs or to the town of Walker. And if we come up with some reasons why we should do something a little different, that's something that we're going to highlight and bring to you guys for you to, be specifically aware of it, so that y'all can have input and point us in the direction you want us to go. Besides that, most of unincorporated Livingston Parish is rural, as you guys are aware of. City of Denham Springs, town of Walker, the densely populated areas, we don't have any jurisdiction in regarding zoning anyway. So what we're also trying to do, what we are doing, is we are identifying what we believe are going to be the industrial commercial corridors through the parish. Obviously, it's going to be the roads that are the most highly traveled, state highways, where you already have some commercial activity happening today. And because those are going to be the areas, I believe, where we're going to spend the most time going back and forth with the council on exactly how we zone that. So the easier parts are going to be adjacent to existing zoning, and then the very rural parts of Livingston Parish where you really have no development, just scattered residential properties. Those are going to be the two easiest. The more complicated, the most work is going to be along those corridors that we know are going to be commercial, industrial in the not too distant future. And just to give you guys a sense of the scope of what we're doing, there's more than 77,000 parcels in Livingston Parish. So now I believe that does include inside city limits, but still altogether there's 77,000+ parcels that we're going to be looking at, most of them, and making a decision on residential, commercial, industrial, R1, R2, R3, and so on. So, it's something that we have a couple of guys in the office working on right now. And the next thing that you guys are going to see from us is kind of a macro view of what we think, what we recommend that you guys consider as far as what Livingston Parish is going to look like in the future, because that is what we're doing today, guys. We are making decisions for the parish for the future. Because once something is zoned, sometimes it's really hard to change that, no matter how much sense it makes 5 years from now. So go ahead.
Eddie, not to interrupt, you got a timeline on when you think you're going to bring that to the council? Do you have a middle of next year?
I'm gonna try to get you guys. I am going to get you guys a draft in November to start looking at next month. I'm not certain that it's something that we should. It's not something that we'll have to take any action on. It's more just for us to get some input back from you 9 councilmen.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Tracy. I'm sorry.
I had spoke with Mr. Montgomery about maybe we could get an overlay of each district. And this is something he had recommended, to where each councilman can get their district, and put in their recommendations and get that to you. So it would maybe help simplify help streamline what you're doing there, Eddie.
Absolutely, we can do that. We'll break up the parish into the 9 districts, and I'll send you guys the parcel maps for that. And absolutely, whatever you guys have for input, put it on there and send it to us.
All right, that'd be good. It's because as soon as you can get that to us, I think because it's no small task for any of us. And the last thing, Eddie, I could tell you longtime resident, because in that speech you actually called my city a town 3 times. Okay. We have long since left being a town. Just wanted to correct you on that, Mr. Idell, before Jeff did.
Yeah.
What is the population of Walker now?
Like 7,000. We made city probably 15 years ago.
That's crazy. Seems like it was yesterday.
Hey, Eddie, I've got to ask you a question, and we talked about this in the ordinance committee, and we adopted those definitions and amended some and whatever. Are we still going to have a provision or a timeline that when this thing goes out, that property owners have an opportunity to appeal their assigned zoning for a period of time? Have we thought about that, or have we addressed that, or?
We have some. I have some recommendations on that. I actually got them written down at the office, and I'm at home right now.
No,
but Dallas and I have discussed it, and you certainly can, Mr. Gary. You can like we talked about one of those meetings. I am open to allowing as much input as you guys want us to. You just tell us what you want us to do in that regard.
Well, here's the deal. I might have a particular thought process of how a particular road might look, and somebody who might have bought a piece of property as an investment might have an entirely different perspective of that, and they actually the owner. I think somehow we've got to afford those people an opportunity to come without going through the process, because there'll be a process later to try to get zoning changed. If you want to make your property from something to something, there'll be a process later on to get it done. I'm just wondering on the front end, as we are, I don't want to use the word arbitrarily, because there's going to be a lot of thought process go into this. But as the council assigns people zoning, if they're not comfortable or not, it's not what they want. I hope that there's some process and some designated time event that they have the ability to make an appeal and then talk about why they think their property should be different. And then, a lot of them, just because we think it's something one way doesn't mean that somebody doesn't have a better idea about something. I just want to be sure that exists out there for those property owners.
It certainly is. And I have there's a couple of different ways that other municipalities have done it. And I can share that with you guys, and together we can make a decision what we think is going to be the best way for Livingston Parish to handle it, because you do have to be careful about it, because some of the input from the property owner is certainly going to make sense and say, yeah, we understand that, and we may unanimously agree that we should make that change. But other times you're going to have someone that wants an I-4 in the middle of something that we really would be difficult for us to agree with, you know? But yeah, there is several mechanisms that we could put in place, and I can send you guys a couple of different methodologies on how to do that. And, you know, you guys just make a decision on which one you want to use.
Okay. Any other council member have any question or comment for Mr. Idell?
Only comment I have is, I think between Mr. McMorris, his district, and my district, I don't know how we're going to find any more room for development. I think it's like 3,200 homes ready to be developed right now.
Go ahead. Mr. Harris, don't fool yourself. I thought Watson was built out, and I went to a meeting today on a subdivision, a multi-use development that's got 70-something homes and 90-something low-density multifamily units and I don't know, 15 or 6 commercial buildings on the front or something like that. And you thought that you couldn't build another house in Watson. But don't fool yourself. People can find ways to develop property. So anyway,
I just have one last question, just real quick. So remember we removed those definitions on that classification, unclassified, on that draft coming in November. Are we going to be able to input some of that back into that?
Yeah, we have a few changes and stuff that we're going to recommend on the first part of the ordinance that we've kind of caught some things that we're like, maybe this should be a little different. So we're going to make some recommendations to you guys. So you certainly have an opportunity. In my opinion, we're going to be accepting a modified version 2 of the initial ordinance along with the final map is what I envision would actually happen.
Yeah, Shane, if you remember, that discussion was that whatever's on that list, nobody's going to have a say or be able to comment on them. So you want to be sure that whatever's on that list is something that's going to be acceptable to everybody that lives by it. And that was, we just kind of felt it was kind of broad, but just remember that when you say unclassified and you give a list of things, you can build whatever on that list without asking anybody's opinion or advertising or whatever. That's the concern, and that's why we removed everything from that list at that point. Anybody else?
Yeah, and that is, you know, it's probably for that one zoning designation, it's just as important of a list for the things that you cannot specifically put there as the things that you guys would be willing to allow. So yeah, it definitely wasn't a final draft, in my opinion.
Hey, Mr. Idell, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate
Thank you guys.
If nobody's got any other comment, can we move on to item 19, board appointments and reappointments, resignations. Fire District number 11, Mr. Mack.
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Raymond Addison, his term is expiring, and we need to replace him. And he's ready to move on to bigger and better things in life. He served many years and helped actually start that thing from the ground up. Him and Mr. Charles Whitman, Don Tension, and but they're moving on up in age there, and they're ready to move on, and so we need to replace him. And I'd like to make a motion to replace him and put Mr. Don Bernard on that Fire District 11 board.
So you got a motion to appoint Mr. Don Bernard, and we got a second by whom? Mr. McMorris seconded that? I wasn't watching the screen.
It don't matter. I second it.
I'll second.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second, and is any objection? No objection. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
The item, Mr. Don Bernard is appointed to Fire District number 11. B, Gravity Drainage District number 1, Mr. Bubba Harris and Mr. John Wasp.
I didn't think we had anything coming up until November sometime. Miss Sandy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When did
They'll
we-
expire November the 22nd. But I went ahead and asked if we could go ahead and put this on here, and I verified with you. You said to go ahead and do it because we have a short calendar next month. We only have 2 meetings, the 4th and the 18th. So we don't want them to.
My appointment on Gravity Drainage District is Carl Gino.
Right.
And I want him to stay there.
Okay.
Make that motion. I'll second that.
Gonna do them both together?
Well, let's let Bubba handle his appointment, then we'll let John handle his. So Bubba wants to reappoint Mr. Carl Joseph Juneau. We got a second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Is there any objection? All in favor, say aye. John, you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, this is for gravity drainage, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Sandy, does it show that that's Chris Whitmire?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to leave Chris on there again. I'd make a motion, we reappoint him.
I
Okay, so
second.
got a motion and a second to reappoint Chris Whitmire. Any objection? All in favor, say aye. Hey,
Can
Bubba.
I ask a quick question?
Mr. Buford is District 5 and he expires on 11/22. You want to defer addressing that situation till next?
Yes. Well, that is actually Scooter's appointment.
Okay.
So I was going to let him have that.
Okay. So, and so he's not going to be back. So Sandy, we're not going to be able to address that appointment to the 18th.
Okay.
Okay, doke?
All right. Thanks.
All right. So that item is carried. Mr. Item C, Gravity Drainage District number 2, Mr. Ard.
Yes, Mr. Murray Morgan. He served there a long time. I talked to him. He said he's good to continue going, so I'd like to reappoint him.
I'll make that second.
I'm tickled to hear that. We've got a motion and a second. Is there any objection? No objection. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Morgan is on for another 4 years. D, Master Plan Review Committee, Mr. Mack.
Yes, I want to talk a little bit about the Master Plan Review Committee real quick. I went to a meeting the other night, and I want to say I feel like that group, you know, they started off and they had a broad scope of work to perform, and they've kind of narrowed it down and found their niche, and they're doing an extremely good job of taking initiative to get us some, you know, enhanced road projects in Livingston Parish. You know, we haven't had a new road in Livingston Parish in a long, long time. They made that a priority, and they're pursuing that path to extend that Jubin North, you know, road there. That's going to wind up being a parish road. And they're pursuing that, and they're working with federal, state, and local, electors to pursue that and take that initiative and to push that project on along. And in addition to that, one that was really discussed the other night is they're doing a lot of meeting right now. They're trying to work to, put it all together to widen 190 from Hatchell Lane to Jubin. And they're working to find funding, and they're meeting and they're really taking initiative. And I just really feel like that they're doing a really good job, and it's gonna have an awesome outcome. I really, really do. And to do that, I think that you need volunteers, you need members on this committee to show up and perform and help this group give good direction to the elected officials so that we can kind of push those projects. And so Ms. Eileen Material back before the storm had texted me, and she was a very valuable input on that board for a long time since it was created. And, she worked with them to develop that priority list of all the projects in Livingston Parish that we kind of voted to support. But she's just extremely overwhelmed and busy at the moment trying to do all the wonderful things out there in our area. And so she's going to come off that board. And we're gonna
Dang, you got to talk to the computer, please.
My apologies. We're going to appoint Mr. Ross Calvin Kinchin. He's an upcoming star in the in that area. He's a businessman, and he is he's just a really good guy, and he's going to help this group do awesome things. I'm very excited about appointing him.
I'll second it.
I'd like to make that motion. We put him on there. And I'd also like to say, thank you for that second. If we could communicate with our members, that we appointed and kind of relight the fire, kind of get them to start coming to those meetings. This board is really doing positive things, to figure out where we're going to get the money to fund these new projects. And I really feel like this whole Widen Florida Boulevard thing, it's gonna pan out, and it's gonna be because of that group's hard work. So let's talk to our members and let's get them enthused, and let's get them to those meetings, and let's do some awesome things for Livingston Parish. So appreciate that second.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second on Mr. Ross Calvin Kinchin. Any objection among council members? There being no objection, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Kinchin is appointed. Committee reports. I feel like we just got the Master Plan Review Committee update from Mr. Mack, so we're going to move on to item B, Ordinance Committee. Mr. Girlinghouse.
Hey, all right. So the committee met, the Ordinance Committee met Tuesday, and we went over a few things. Now we deferred the impact fee ordinance because we just wanted Mr. Mack to approach that. We're going to basically move that to this coming Tuesday, so they can address that. And we didn't get an update on the load limits for the Parish Road ordinance, how the administration wants to change that, or DPW change that. So I went in and requested that, more information on that one. We had the review of regulation prohibiting parking on vehicles on parish roads. I felt like we were on an impasse on that one, guys, but I think we decided to talk about that one later too. Yeah. I felt like that it was good the way it was, but I know you guys had different opinions, so I don't know if we're ready to move forward on that one either. So,
Tracy, I think that on that particular deal, we got a portion of that ordinance. I think that next week on the meeting, we're going to get the whole ordinance, which will expound on some of the stuff that we already addressed a few years ago. And I think other than the definition of vehicles, which I say encompasses trailers, probably all we need to do is add and trailers to it, and that'll probably address whatever concerns we have. But yeah, I think that everything we had questioned was addressed in the ordinance. We just didn't have the whole ordinance. We had a small portion of it in front of us that really addressed what we were going to talk about, was the trailer thing. So as our discussion expanded, I think we'll get the whole ordinance in front of us, and I think it'll address every concern we had. And if we add in trailers to vehicles, I think we'll address what concern was brought to us in the beginning. So I
agree. I guess the final thing was, I think we had come to a consensus on the grass corridor ordinances, and as it returned to the exceeding 8 inches. We had long discussion on that. And I think we could decide to push it through I think we voted to push that one come through, to go ahead and bring that one. So if you want it, we want to introduce that one tonight.
We got another. We want to talk about the other one too, about the property, the weeds. I mean the
vehicles.
The vehicle, the towing thing.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't have that in front of me here.
It's ordinance.
Here it is.
Okay.
Go ahead. It says an ordinance. This was definition amending abandoned motor vehicles of the Code of Ordinances in the Parish of Livingston. I think we had determined on that one, if it sits there for a long period of time, or it's not running. But I know there was an ordinance where we're going to change in the ordinance, or with the consent of the owner or persons in control of the property for more than 90 days in a single 12-month period. But you can expand on it a little bit too, Gary, if you want to.
Well, basically, it amounted to that there was a ton of definitions that compliance could utilize, and who could address an abandoned vehicle. And there was a gap in there that they felt they wanted to cover, that there were vehicles that they couldn't, that because of where they were and who owned them, where they were, there was nobody. The ordinance really didn't address how to deal with them. So they asked this wording be added, and I think they feel it'll cover any loophole, any property that's abandoned. They'll have some process or some way to define where it is or what it is or who to contact to get addressed. So that was it. So Sandy, would you go about and read by title both of those for introduction? And I guess we got to set the hearing on those on the 18th also, don't we?
Okay, we're going to do the nuisance for the 8 inches and grass height first. Is that okay?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, this will be proposed ordinance 21-28. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 74, Vegetation, Section 74-87. Removal required when constituting a nuisance and/or health hazard of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston. The public hearing will be held on November 18th at 6 p.m.
Okay, and the next one is the environmental section.
Yes, sir. This one will be proposed ordinance 21-29. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 22, Environment, Section 22-52, Definitions by amending abandoned motor vehicle of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston. And the public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. on November 18th.
Thank you. Is that it, Mr. Groundhouse?
That's it.
Okay, Finance Committee, Mr. Ard.
All right, Miss Jennifer sent us all a copy of the budget that will be introduced on the 18th, and then we'll approve it on the 2nd. So all y'all should have that where you can review that. Also, she said that we will be starting out next year with 12 million in the road overlay program, and that could possibly get bumped up because all our bonds are paid off on the roads now. So that all sounded like some very positive stuff.
Yeah.
The income from the taxes are still looking good. I'm sure that's due to people still building their homes and repairing things from the storms, just like the flood was. She also sent us a check register. Everybody should have a copy of that and be able to look at it. I think all in all, everything seemed to look like it was on the up for us.
Mr. Chairman.
Positive. Yes, sir, Mr. Black.
Jeff, and I'm not sure if you know it. I don't know the answers why I'm asking. When we introduce it, when she introduces it on the 18th of November and we adopt on the 2nd, if we want to make changes, do we have to adopt on the 2nd or do we make changes and adopt at the same time? I'm not sure about that.
We gotta adopt the budget on the 2nd, Randy. So it'll be introduced as on the 18th. And then any amendments that need to be made will be made on the 2nd and voted on the 2nd. Am I correct?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The way the home rule charter, we gotta adopt it before the last meeting before the last one of the month. So year. So that's kind of how we're under the gun on that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any comments from Mr. Ard? Questions, Mr. Ard? Comment on the Finance Committee? Okay, District Attorney report. Because we moved our meeting, there was a conflict. So we didn't have, if y'all noticed, we didn't have a parish attorney here today. Hopefully we saved ourselves some money because of that. Comments. Has anybody got any comment they want to make?
I do. Before I have to be reminded again, trunk or treat this coming Saturday from 6 to 8. I've been working on this thing very hard all week, getting different people donating different things, and we're making little changes in the way the park is going to be set up this go around, so we can cook the hot dogs by the pavilion where people at least have a place after they receive their food to go sit down and eat. And I have to say that Ronald Wuggamore has done a fantastic job in South Park. It didn't take him long to get all the limbs and trees and everything else cleaned up and out. But that's about it, unless someone else has something.
Well, but y'all gonna have some low-fat hot dogs and some
Close your eyes, no loose. Close your eyes, no loose.
No buns.
Yeah, well, hey, Mr. Talbot, I'm in the same boat with you, so.
I hear you. Mr. Ard.
Yes, I wanted to bring up, Gary, I know this is your call, you're the chairman, but with the mask mandate being lifted, should we discuss possibly coming back with our meetings? I mean, I know
Well,
we
I
have
was
to do an
going to make
executive
the
session.
announcement. I was going to make the announcement. Since the governor listed mask mandate, we probably need to go ahead and have that November 4th meeting in person. I mean, and November 4th, November 18th, the 2 meetings in December. I mean, the mandate's been lifted. There's no reason if they've determined that we don't need to wear masks, and we need to go back to a public meeting. Look, I know Zoom is convenient for everybody. It allows people to participate that might not normally be able to participate, but there's no justification for having a Zoom meeting if the mask mandate's been lifted. So yeah, Mr. Ard, we definitely need to go back to public meetings on the.
I agree.
One other thing, Mr. Talbot.
Yes, sir.
I was just informed that we are going to have the jumping deals for the kids this year. We had them a couple of years ago, and that was a big hit. But due to everything between then and now, they got put on the side. But my daughter contacted them today and said, yes, they would be there this year for the children. So
They'll have some jumping things for the adults, or it's just for the kids? We can't go jumping on both?
You can jump on it if you'd like to.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Delat.
We always ask for volunteers.
Okay, I want to make one little comment. I say this with all sincerity in my heart. We had a very good meeting tonight, but we have a lot of leaders on this council that show a lot of compassion for the people. And it started with the chairman showing his leadership ability, but Jeff, Gerlinghouse, Mac, Mr. Harris, everybody I see here, Gerald Boy, Wascom, y'all all good leaders, and you got the community that you represent. Those people have your ear, and you able to come up here and talk and fight for those people for as hard as you can fight, but still be friends with the people around that's sitting on that council. And the reason is everybody is not going to agree or have the same point, but everybody's got one thing. They strong leadership abilities with strong compassion for their parish. And I tell y'all, I've been here, this is my 3rd term, and this is the best council I ever sat on. This is the best. There's always been 1 or 2 people, and this is 9 people that go out there and do the things right for parish people. So
Thank you, Mr. Delat.
Thank you.
That. Thank you.
All right.
I agree.
If no other comment, somebody want to make a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Mr. Ard, got a second by Mr. Gerlinghouse. There being no objection, this meeting's over.